Okay. Oh, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. Pizza is not here yet, so we'll take a break in the middle for pizza. I'm going to go ahead and get started with today. So today we're talking about careers in InfoSec. I made these slides in 30 minutes, so they're not very thorough. Instead, it's mainly going to be, we'll have time at the end for you guys to come up and talk to us so we can help you figure out individually what's probably the best route for you. But I'm going to speed run through some stuff. First of all, InfoSec is really, really big. There's a lot of different fields because anything that has code in it can be hacked. So that means there's a bunch of different possibilities for you to go into a career. However, there are a few themes in the positions that you can get. So we'll go through those. Specifically, I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about blue team because that's what most jobs offer. Companies want someone there to protect them. And also, it's kind of the easiest entry-level job to get into. So that's what most of this talk will be about. First of all, for starting out, if you're lucky, you can jump straight into a cybersecurity path, but sometimes that's hard. So what a lot of people do is they do security adjacent things, mainly network administration, IT, software development, a lot of help desk. Like help desk helps a lot because you also get the people skills. And in cybersecurity, it's the people skills that a lot of employees are lacking. So if you can't get a job doing cool stuff, you do one of these and you kind of work your way into doing more security related things as you do the job. Give it a few years and then boom, now you can start doing actual security things. So what kind of things can you do? Okay, this slide we're going to skip because it's kind of pointless. The idea is that if you have experience on your resume, it looks good and you can get a job. But that's not really necessary because if you show that you're qualified, for example, by being part of this club, making cool projects, and just being really smart, then you can help get a job quicker. Pizza's here, yippee. Okay. So here's a few different general categories that you could get for a job. One is making stuff, doing engineering and architecture, specifically like making either setting up the network for the company you're working at or setting up security tools to help defend that network. So if you like tooling, if you like building stuff up and figuring all that out, this is a fun job. Another thing is like the very blue team stuff, incident response. When someone attacks you, how are you going to deal with that? This involves lots of log analysis, being able to do forensics. Basically, anytime someone tries to attack your network, you have to pick up on that through alerts, investigate the incident using forensics, and then kind of figure out what they did so you can reverse the process and make your system more secure. Management and administration, kind of, it's what it is. You manage the team, do stuff like that. Consultant is an interesting thing. It's basically you give companies advice on how to be most secure. A good example of this would be penetration testing, right? You hack into their network, you see what all their vulnerabilities are, and you tell them, hey, these are the things you need to work on. Here's how we can help you secure those aspects. And then, so those are a lot of the blue teaming positions. And in terms of red teaming, there's really like one main thing, which is pen testing. A company will hire you to basically have a week or a month, however long, to essentially pretend as a hacker and break into their company's network. This could be either entirely digital, it could be even physical if they have that as part of their scope, where you show up to their premises and you break in physically to try and retrieve confidential information that way. So that's kind of, if you want to do something like that, if that seems interesting, do red team. That's basically what it is. Here on the slides, these slides are old. It says, see Dr. Wilson, he is retired now. We're going to offer introduction to penetration testing next semester in spring. It's going to be taught by Michael Link. So if you're interested into hacking into stuff, take that class. And that's the end of my speed running. The rest of this is referencing other people's websites because they did a good job of compiling things. So right here, I have 45 different cybersecurity roles it's a pretty good comprehensive overview of like all the different things, what their salaries are, what they do. So if you're interested, you can come up and look at this. In the meantime, we're gonna have pizza. So people will come up, enjoy your pizza. Okay, we covered the jobs. We can go in more detail later if you guys want. But the other thing I want to talk about is how do you get those jobs? And a big way is certificates. So over here, there's this really cool map of all the certificates in cybersecurity. And there's a link here if you want to visit the website. It has links to the page and the price and all of that. So, do you need every single one of those? Okay, you guys have fun paying $100,000 to get all of them. I'm going to say no. Most of these are pretty pointless because what certificates are for is to show employers that you're qualified and you know your stuff. Because of that, there's a few certain certificates that they like to see. And these are them. So for general purpose, number one is Security Plus. That's the one everyone says you should get. Who here has Security Plus certification? I don't. Yippee, someone does. So that's good. It's a entry level certificate, kind of brief overview of everything, and it's $400, which isn't cheap, but I'll talk about pricing later. Another one is CCNA, developed by Cisco, and it's specifically for networking. So that is a pretty good certificate to get afterwards. And then the last one I have listed for a general certificate is the CISSP. This one looks really nice. And the reason is because in order to even qualify to get the certificate, you need to have 5 years of work experience. So like 2,000 hours of work experience. It's a barrier to entry. Some of these certificates are like that. You need to get work experience before you even qualify for it. So CISSP, do not worry about now because it's completely useless to you now. You would just be wasting money. However, 5 years from now, think about getting it because that'll help a lot. And then also, there's this organization, SANS, that produces a bunch of cybersecurity content, and they're famous for their GOC certificates. These go into a bunch of different niches in a lot of detail. For example, a lot of these, any of these that start with the G, pretty much are examples of SANS certificates. You have some for pen testing, some for malware reverse engineering, some for digital forensics. It's kind of all over the board. So if there's a specific field that you really like and you really want to go all in on it, those certificates are nice to have because it's established as being a really thorough certificate in that subject. The problem is they are incredibly expensive, like several $1,000s. So you should not be paying for these out of pocket. In terms of other ones, for Blue Team, there's a specific one called the CISA, which is, or the CISA. It's a sysadmin certificate. So Blue Team stuff. Again, it's one of those where you need 5 years experience, so don't worry about it for now. That's something you're going to be thinking about in your future. And then for Red Team, there's this one, the OSCP, which is pretty good for red teaming. It's one that HR knows well. Problem is, it is $1,500, so it's really not worth it for you to get it yourself. So let's talk about how you can get it for free. There's a few options for getting free certificates. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to, which is why they're so prestigious to have, but we can work towards getting something. On one hand, if the club gets enough funding, we could try doing something with subsidizing certificates, but that is far in the future because we are poor. So let's talk about other more feasible solutions. In the past, there's this program called CyberStart, which was primarily for high schoolers and college students. Really great program because they essentially paid for you to get a certificate. Unfortunately, they discontinued this program last year, so that is no longer an option for us. Maybe it comes back in the future, but with the way government funding is going, I don't think that's going to happen. So there are a few other options. One is the US Cyber Games. This is a CTF competition where it happens every summer, and they give you a bunch of challenges, and it's like stages where if you do well enough, you move on to the next stage. I think last year, or I guess this summer, I know of two people that in UFC competed in it, me and someone else. And to be honest, it's pretty hard. Like it's easy to get past the first round, but in order to qualify for the certificate, you need to make it to the pipeline, which is around top 50, top 60 in the nation. So it's kind of difficult to get. But if you like CTFs, this is a really cool program because you got to do a lot of CTFs. You got to get to meet a lot of great people, and you get a free certificate in the process. So that's one option for you. Another one is get a job. If you're employed, some companies will pay for you to get a certificate, which is really nice. However, it's kind of a loop because like in order to get a job, you need certificates, but to get a certificate, you need the job. So it's kind of like, what are you going to do? It sucks. Um, and then the last option I have on here is Santa Fe. I know a lot of people who got their certificates from Santa Fe, and they have this program where if you enroll in a certain class, you can prepare for a certificate. And if in the end you pass the certificate and get your certification, they'll actually reimburse what you paid to get the certificate exam. So there's a few people working at UF that have done that path and it's worked out well for them. I don't know how feasible it is for us as UF students, but like if you graduate from UF and you want something else afterwards, that could be a nice thing to do for 1 or 2 years to get some certificates. Yes, Rippy. So I am young. I am not super employed. So don't take my word for it. But I would say, huh? I am regularly employed, yes. I would say at least one certificate looks really nice, but it is not a hard requirement because there are other ways to show that you're passionate and talented. If you have a lot of individual projects in cybersecurity, like developing tools and stuff like that, that could work instead. Or if you do competitions and you're like globally number one, that also probably would, you don't need a certificate because you've already demonstrated that you're capable. Um, I think CCNA is pretty nice to go for because it has good content there. But yeah, repeat it. Follow.
So you had that sheet of
Yeah, how do I know from which one of those that
they say you certification when you apply for a job? It's like is there like a bunch of certifications saying like if you want a job in this sector, get these certifications?
Yeah, so depends on the job you're applying to. There are some job applications where they specifically say as a requirement, you need a certificate from one of these. For example, at the career fair, one of the companies there was offering jobs you could only get if you took your CCNA. So in some cases, that is, they'll explicitly state. In other cases, it's sort of a unspoken requirement because that's what they look for on the resumes all the time. And so if they don't see it, they're like, ugh. Yeah.
Have you ever into how common is it to have it so that if you apply to a job, you don't have the certification, but they like your resume, so they'll say get the certification and then you get the job? Like how often does that happen?
I don't think employers are allowed to do that, like force you to get a certification to get a job. Is that so? The scenario he presented is an employer thinks you're a good candidate, but doesn't want to offer you the job until you get a certificate. Is that a thing that actually happens? Clearances, they'll do that.
Okay, so I don't know about specifically certifications, but in the world of clearances, you can get a contractual job offer, which is basically where we'll accept you as long as you pass the pending, clearance check. If you don't get the job offer, even though you already signed off on it. So correct. But I imagine they could probably do the same thing for certain certificates if they're high enough level.
Any other questions? Yes. Inside IT and help desk, what roles could you do to learn more? Are you currently employed in IT or help desk? Field tech. Okay. Anything security related. So if you think about, oh, that's a good question. I think it really depends on where you're employed because I know how it's set up in UF is that the help desk resolves a lot of incidents discovered by the security team. So whenever the security team discovers an incident and they're like, okay, we need to disable this account, they send it to the help desk and they're like, hey, do this. It's sort of like ask your superiors and your coworkers to try and learn more on the spot because I think what you're doing directly in the job isn't going to be security related, but you're around a lot of tech people. You're probably going to work with some people in cybersecurity. So I think the main thing is just asking around and trying to learn from the others around you. Like passive knowledge, like absorb their information. Yeah. That's pretty much how I would go about it. Any other questions? No? Oh, yeah, Nick. Enroll in a summer class at Santa Fe. So I do not know because I've never been in Santa Fe. That's a great question that we should ask Santa Fe about, and we'll see. Any other questions? What? Okay, I assume that's no more questions. In which case, yeah, that's the end of my yapping. So for certificates, I know some people have the impression that if you don't have a certain certificate, you're not smart, or that you take certificates in order to gain knowledge. I think that's true to some extent because certificates can definitely teach you concepts. However, with the way these certificates are priced, I think it's low-key a scam to pay for education to that extent. And I think for certificates, you're really just trying to increase your reputation by getting whatever that HR wants to see on your application. So in terms of knowledge, it should entirely be through your own passion, your own self-studying. Google stuff, work on your own projects, compete, learn from others. That's how you gain real applicable knowledge. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Say to an employer, like, I have security plus knowledge.
Uh,
Like,
Uh, how risky do you want to be? I mean, you could, and I don't know if they could catch you, but I would say to them, I'm preparing for my Security Plus currently, and I'm going to take it next month. I wouldn't go and say, I have the knowledge because that's what the certificate is for. Anyone can come up and claim they have the knowledge, right? It doesn't really mean anything. I would just say, I'm studying for my Security Plus and plan on taking it next month. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Nathan. Yes, I think if you're applying for a job, you definitely should renew your certificate because that does matter. The cool thing about certificates is if you get a higher level certificate, it automatically renews all of the lower level ones. So that kind of should be your goal, like once every, I don't know, 3 years, try and get the next certificate on your list. I think that's good. Any other questions? Okay. No? Then that's the end of my yapping. Thank you guys for coming. If you want to hear about stuff, oh, sorry.
actually get the security plus for cheaper if you take student discount for it's I think $250 or something.
Security Plus has a student discount for $250.
Yeah, I think it's something around that. But yeah, you can definitely pay a lot less than 400. Just putting this out there.
That is wonderful knowledge. Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you guys for coming.